This is Retirement Tactics with Joe Vitale from American Retirement Advisors. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Joe Vitale provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goal. And now, here with the tactics to help you improve your retirement is Joe Vitale.
Hello and welcome to Retirement Tactics. My name is Joe Vitale with American Retirement Advisors, and with me as always is my co-host Tony Shore. Tony, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Had a crazy busy week this week, trying to juggle a lot with the family and work, but just excited. I've been grilling out a lot lately. It's finally that time of year, and I love that. And I always look forward to our show. That's kind of the highlight of my week because we have fun. I love talking on the radio with you, Joe.
Well, I appreciate it. That's a lot of fun, too. It's my highlight of the week. I was actually out in San Diego for the last 3 days, which was kind of fun, visiting a colleague, and then had a little family time with my cousins out there, and it was so beautiful, but definitely nice to be back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Wow. Well, it sounds like you had a nice little trip. That's good. And I know you're busy meeting with folks. You meet with a lot of people out there, and I know you love hearing from our listeners as well. If our listeners have questions as we go through the show or want to get a hold of you later to set up a complimentary consultation, what's that phone number they should call?
Best number is their 855-756-5700. That's 855-756-5700. Or you can visit our website at www.aradvisorsinc.com.
All right, sounds good. Now, Joe, what are we talking about on today's show? What's the topic?
Our topic today is your retirement prepared for a not a bull market, but a bear market? You know, we've been 10 years into a bull market now, and, you know, what happens if we enter a bear market? What's going to happen?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. What is going to happen? That's crazy. We've seen some volatility recently creep back in, and that kind of worries me. I think this is a good show and a good topic today. I think it's important to discuss this because we've been riding this high for over 8 years now, and nobody knows when the other shoe will drop, do they?
No, they don't. And we've seen a little bit of last year, we see the market drop about, in some sectors 10 to 15% in 18, which was unexpected, especially after we had such a high 2017 of 26% in the S&P. So everything's been, it was unexpected last year, but then the first quarter this year, we're going out like gangbusters, already with the 10 to 15% upside in the first quarter. But still, we've been riding for 10 years, and everybody knows is, oh my goodness, when's this going to happen? Am I going to be prepared for it? What am I going to do? Is my retirement safe? What do I have to do to correct that? If I'm taking income in retirement, how's that going to affect me? And that's really important because we have to see, is your portfolio set up for that? Are you prepared for that? Do you have it allocated correctly where it's diversified enough where if we do have that bear market and we do show a correction, are you going to be able to still pull income as needed without worrying about, not being able to recover from that?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's tough because obviously, especially depending on where you're at in your timeline, you need that money when you retire. But how often does this happen? How often do market corrections and bear markets actually occur?
Well, quite a bit. What you find is bear markets. Usually when you have a bear market, it's defined as about a 20% drop. 20% off its peak, while market corrections about 10%. So what you find is we've had 32 bear markets from 1900s to 2013. We've had 123 market corrections. So it's about one per year. And the average bear market lasts about 3.5 years. So, it can happen. I mean, we the last one we've seen was a few years back. We saw it in, we remember the Great Recession we had in between 07 and 09, and that lasted about 17 months. So the average bear market, though, lasts about 15 months.
And what usually causes those?
It could be a number of different things. I mean, it can be political, like, the Iraqi invasion was one in Kuwait in 1990s, the bear market was set off by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. That was one of them. I mean, it can be, the tech bubble burst. It can be, people that get a little upset when the housing market tanked in '07 or '09, and everybody kind of lost their heads and everybody was selling off. They can easily morph. Market corrections can easily morph into bear markets, just basically due to investor psychology.
Wow. Well, I'm sure a lot goes into the causes. We've seen a lot of different political unrest, and these trade talks obviously can impact it as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was when we had the 2016 election, everybody was worried. They were thinking that, if the Democrats got in, it was going to go up, or if the Republicans got in, it was going to go up or down or one way or the other. And I had people who back in 16 were so afraid of what was going to happen, they moved everything to cash and they lost one of the biggest upsides they could have had. But we have seen political unrest. We've seen a lot of it is economic cycles, it just happens. But at the same token, it can be set off with anything.
Yeah, obviously it can. I know that a lot of different things could set it off. I mean, we saw it in 2000, and then in 2008, those were bear markets, right?
As an example would be, when the internet and telecom bubbles burst in the post-2000, that was a bear market, in the early 2000s when that happened. And remember, also when the economic facts caused investors to change their minds, like in 2007 to 2009 market, when the housing market tanked, everybody was, let's face it, jobs were going, everybody, we're here in Michigan. And in that period of time, it was very difficult for a lot of guys to find jobs. They were leaving the state, so a lot of that changed. That people were selling off as a result, and they're just trying to save whatever they could.
Yeah, that's true. And imagine, though, the people who were either about to retire or just in retirement in 2008, 2009, and they may have had all their money or savings for retirement in the markets. Then? That's not good, right?
No, and that's the biggest thing. That's what we always try to talk to our clients about is, are you properly prepared? Because what you're finding is I remember I was talking to a gentleman back in 2007, and he was very heavily weighted in the market, and he was retiring that year. And I told him, I said, Jim, you got to protect some of this. Let's move it into a situation so you still have some market exposure, but if we have a downturn, we're going to be prepared for that. And he didn't do it, and he just retired. So now, if you're relying on that income in retirement, you're cut in half almost. So, and you can't take any money out of that, because if you take money at that point, it's going to be that much harder to make up that correction. And for him, that was very bad news. And for those who retired thinking they had all this money and they were going to live off of that, they had to change their game. Some people had to go back to work. Some people had to put it off and not take as much as they thought they would have to. So there was a lot of changes as a result of that. And unfortunately, we forget too soon. We forget too soon how, that was just 10 years ago. And yes, everybody's riding high. The market's great and everybody's enjoying it. But as you get ready for retirement, you really have to change your philosophy. You have to change how your assets are allocated, because you're going to have to make this last for the long haul. So regardless of what happens in the market, it's okay to have the exposure. It's okay to be in different indices. But the thing is, you've got to be properly positioned so that if a bear market happens, you can go through it. No harm. It's going to be okay. And that's what we're talking about, is positioning yourself properly. So regardless of what happens in the market, you can still live. You can still have a good retirement and not worry about what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's important, obviously. Hey, you know what? We need to take a quick break here. Our time is just about up for this first segment, Joe. Is there anything you want to add for our listeners before we take this break?
Yeah, well, one of the things I want to let everybody know is we do have a special offer going on that, our book, Retirement Tactics, Avoid the Pitfalls, Capture the Rewards, and Win the Battle of Financial Security. We do have that available for any callers at Call our office. We have a free copy we'll send out to them.
All right. Wow, that sounds great. Sounds like a deal. What's the phone number and web address again?
Again, you can call our office at 855-756-5700 or go to our website, www.aradvisorsinc.com.
All right, and listeners, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more of Retirement Tactics with our host, Joe Vitale of American Retirement Advisors, after this.
Tax planning can be very difficult, and making mistakes on your taxes can haunt you for years. The good news is that most tax mistakes are easily avoidable. All you need is the right professional for the job. At American Retirement Advisors, we have access to a team of CPAs and CFPs who can help you avoid costly tax mistakes and minimize tax exposure. To help you better understand taxes, we have The Future of U.S. Taxation, a guide written by tax professional and author Nick Stovall that you can download now. All you have to do is visit aradvisorsinc.com or call us at 855-756-5700 to request your copy. This informative guide is just one part of the Retirement Income Toolkit, which can help arm yourself with the information you need to help secure your retirement. Once again, the number to call is 855-756-5700.
Welcome back to Retirement Tactics with me. I am your host, Joe Vitale with American Retirement Advisors, and with our co-host, Tony Shore. The title of our show today is Your Retirement Prepared for a Bear Market? In the first segment of the show, we talked about how we are well into the 10th year of a bull market and how often corrections in bear markets happen and what can cause bear markets.
Yeah, it's been a great show so far. Thanks for the recap, Joe. And now that we've talked a little bit about market corrections and bear markets, let's talk about what they mean for the average investor out there. What does it mean to my wife and I? Well, we have our 401ks, our IRAs, our investments. How do we approach this type of situation with a bear market or corrections?
Well, statistically, we're due for another bear market since it's been, we're in the 10th year. And it'd be silly to think that, the bull market will continue forever. So in order to prepare for that, that's part of it. We need to prepare by making sure that we don't think that it's going to keep going forever and we don't, spend foolishly or we keep everything in high risk or aggressive growth. We need to look, it's even more important to be fundamental when it comes to your retirement. The psychology is favoring a bear market, which means fewer investors are willing to bet that stocks are going to continue to grow at the big public companies like Netflix and Tesla. So, it's also nearly impossible to time the bottom of a correction or a bear market. So there really is no way of knowing. But in order to prepare for it, what we really need to do is take a look at how our investments are. What our needs are, if we're going to be retiring, if our clients are going to be retiring, if they're going to be needing this income to retire, we have to make sure that the funds are allocated correctly. So no matter what happens, they're going to be in the right position.
Yeah, I think that's critical. Obviously, people get crazy when they think about the markets and they can overthink it. And, some people are glued to that stock ticker all day. But you really need to make sure that you're prepared. And that's a good idea. What would you say to people who are near retirement, though, and what that bear market could mean for them?
If you're near retirement, we definitely need to look at, how have you rebalanced your assets recently? I've seen some of our clients in the past, 80, 90-year-old, and never really moved their investments, and they took the big hits. If you're not pulling that income, it really, is it important to be properly aligned? If you don't mind going up and down with the ebbs and flows, that's fine. But if you're worried about your retirement income and making sure you have enough, you need to constantly be rebalancing. You need to align yourself with a good financial advisor who's a fiduciary who understands what you need to do, and to make sure you're constantly revisiting how you're invested, because you can't just leave it on autopilot. There were years where we could just leave it alone and not worry about it. That's not the case right now. With how quick everything is changing, especially going into retirement years, your income isn't going to be coming in anymore. So now whatever you have to make it last. If you have a 20% correction, that could be detrimental to your retirement.
Yeah, I would imagine that it could really derail your retirement quickly. And you want to make sure that your assets are in a good spot, regardless of what the market is doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And another way to do that too is we have you want to make sure that the amount of risk you have you're comfortable with. And one thing that we do is we have a color of money risk analysis. It's a short 11-question survey. It helps, we assess your financial picture and provide a roadmap to your overall risk, preferences. So once we have that score, we're able to begin looking at how your savings are actually allocated today and make sure that everything is lining up properly with your tolerance to risk and that it can last depending on what you need to do in retirement.
Right. And I think that's really important. So what's another tip that you'd give to people who want to make sure that their retirement is going to be secure for this inevitable bear market?
One of the best tips I can give them is to call our office, do a strategy assessment, do the color of money risk analysis. We'll give a complimentary analysis and make sure that everything is positioned properly. And if we find any things that are concerning, we'll let you know. And that way, we'll make sure that you're properly positioned. So no matter what happens, you're in good shape.
All right. Well, I think that's amazing. That's really good. And I know you're offering that complimentary, no cost, no obligation consultation for our listeners out there. And all they have to do is give you a call. What's that phone number and web address one more time?
Phone number 855-756-5700. And it's www.aradvisorsinc.com.
All right, sounds good, Joe. Listeners, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more of Retirement Tactics with our host, Joe Vitale, right after this.
Retirement today looks much different than it has in the past. Market volatility, low interest rates, and the rising cost of healthcare have left more of a burden on individuals than ever before. But it doesn't have to. New Generation Retirement offers a holistic approach to preparing for your golden years. This 5-step process allows you to explore key areas that we believe are fundamental to successful retirement planning. You will be confident knowing that you have been given careful consideration to asset allocation and risk, income planning, legacy planning, and tax strategies. You are invited to a complimentary dinner and workshop to learn how you can utilize this holistic approach to retirement planning. For times, location, and to reserve your seat at one of these workshops, call American Retirement Advisors at 855-756-5700 or online at aradvisorsinc.com. Once again, that number is 855-756-5700 or aradvisorsinc.com.
Welcome back to our last segment of the show. Is your retirement prepared for a bear market? I am your host, Joe Vitale, and our show is called Retirement Tactics. We've been discussing the inevitable bear market and how you can prepare for investments, how you can prepare your investments for it. We've talked a little bit about how we are, well into our 10th year of a bull market, how often corrections and bear markets happen, what causes them, and having the right fundamental approach when it comes to your investments, and why it's important your assets be properly aligned to your risk tolerance.
Yeah, and everybody, I know how you always talk about how everybody has their own personal risk tolerance, and thanks for the recap. Maybe tell us more about how we can take steps to protect our savings from big losses.
Well, there really is no way to fully protect your investment portfolio from all types of risks during the stock market cycles. However, you can take steps to ensure that your assets are diversified so that any hit you may take, it may not be as detrimental to your retirement. I highly advise working with a trusted financial professional who is a fiduciary who can help provide you with sound investment advice and take a look at your unique situation. And since no two individual investment portfolios are alike and no bear market are exactly identical, it helps to have a professional on your side that is able to determine the proper investment strategy for you, whether it means investing conservatively, moderately, or even more risky, and knowing your score, knowing what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and that makes sense. What's another tip you have for us?
One of the other things you can do if you feel the market is affecting your retirement savings and that you can't adjust how you're tapping into your assets, whether you reach a point that you need to start withdrawing money from your portfolio, traditionally financial professionals will say that you have to follow the 4% rule. When you're withdrawing 4% from your savings in the first year of retirement and then gradually increase that amount to keep up with inflation every year, sometimes instead of following that rule, you could be flexible and adjust your withdrawal rate accordingly. when you get to 70 and a half and you got your required minimum distributions, you can't really choose. You have to take that. It's almost 4% when you start. It's a little under. So that you really can't change. But other than that, you can easily, depending what happens in the market, you can either forego it. There's other ways you can just pull some dividends off. So there's other ways to counter that so that it doesn't affect you as much.
Yeah, and I imagine there's a lot of different things we can do to adjust our risk. And that's what you help people do, right? I mean, you talk about risk tolerance. You don't want all your money tied to the market, especially as you get closer to retirement or are in retirement, right? That's one way to hedge against a bear market, isn't it?
It really is. And sometimes we look at, what, like we talked about the risk, how much risk, what is your profile score? What, your color money risk analysis, how much are you able to take? I've got some of my clients who say, Joe, if the market goes down, I better never lose a penny. Well, guess what? You really can't be in the market if that's what you're thinking, right? And that's what we need to assess, because some people, when they think like that, and you're heavily weighted in the market, then something's wrong. Somebody's not listening to you. Either you never changed the way you invested, or the person who invested wasn't listening. Because if you have the situation where you can't afford any loss, you really can't be in the market. But so there's other products that we look at where they do have more safety features, where they can create more of a guaranteed income stream, which are not market related, because there really is no guarantees when you're talking about the market. So anything, if we're looking to put an income together, we can look at some other income strategies, but there's always ways to look down the road, to look at mitigating some of the risk and making sure that you're comfortable.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really important. So do you have any other tips that you want to discuss with us today?
Well, it's just important to remind yourself not to get too hung up on how the market's doing. Some people got to look at the market every day. Well, it's going to make you crazy. You don't want to do that. While it's important to pay attention to the degree of damage that a bear market inflicts, it's also important to remember what happens in the aftermath. Particularly that stocks have a good chance to recoup the losses suffered in the downturn. It may sound cheesy, right? But write yourself a note or do whatever might help you keep your cool down the road. If that's what it does. I've got some of my clients say, Joe, I'm not even going to look at the market. And that's fine. You don't want to, because those people who kept their head during the downside and left it and stayed the course made it up and then some.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's so important. You got to keep your head. You've got to make sure that you can do that.
Yeah, and I think it's easy for people to be optimistic during a bull market, which we've had a long bull market, but you'll want to be reminded that everything is okay in the future when, stocks may be heading for that bear market that we're all worried about. But another way, Joe, is obviously asset allocation, and I know that for people in retirement especially, you look at maybe getting some of their money out of the market and in safer options. I know there are a lot of different strategies and retirement vehicles out there that will help people save and even make a little money, have a little bit of growth, but yet protect the principal. There are options out there to do that, aren't there?
There are. And in our last show, we talked about some fixed index annuities that are out there where actually, they can grow very nicely and safely and provide guaranteed income. And what we found too with some of our clients, that might be a nice piece to the equation to give them that income stream that they need in retirement. And as long as they got the income taken care of, now we're not so worried about the rest of the money in their portfolio. So if we have that bear market, that little correction, the money's down a little bit, it's not that big of a worry because we've got their income taken care of. And that is huge in retirement, is having that peace of mind and making sure that you've got sustainable income you can depend on.
Yeah, and that's key right there. You have to have that sustainable income. Now, before we have to go, let our listeners know, I know you have a lot of different things you can offer them. There's a lot of tools on the website, and there's a lot of personalized reports you can run, and you've been talking about this risk analysis. For our listeners out there, how can they take that? There's no cost to take that, right? That's
correct. Not at all. One of the best ways is when you visit our website, again, www.aradvisorsinc.com, it's going to say Get My Risk Score. And when you click on that button, it's going to take you just through a color money risk analysis. 11 questions. It doesn't take much time at all. And that will tell you, it will ask you some simple questions that make a lot of sense. And then that gives us a score and lets you understand where you are, and then we'll understand what's going to be most appropriate for you. And that's just step one. Then there's a strategy assessment. So there's so many tools, because most people, when they get involved in their retirement, they don't do anything to set up for this. I've had people say, well, Joe, I talked to my guy and he says, we'll talk about that when you're ready. Well, they were a year away. They're ready. You're ready right now. We've got to get this thing going, and we need to make sure that everything is according to how it needs to be. So it's very important that we understand the risk analysis, the strategy assessment, and of course, no cost, making sure that we do everything the right way for you.
All right. Well, you know what? We're out of time for today's show. It just flew by today. Is there anything else you want to add before we have to go?
Well, again, I just wanted to hope everybody feels encouraged and, about riding out the market, regardless whether it's a bull or a bear. And if you feel overwhelmed and you need some help, definitely give us a call. Our phone number again is 855-756-5700. Visit our website, www.aradvisorsinc.com. Whether you call or visit our website, make sure you say you heard our program and you want to get a free copy of our book, and we'll make sure we get that right out to you.
All right, that sounds great. Thanks, Joe. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Tactics with our host, Joe Vitale. Thank you for listening to Retirement Tactics. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Joe Vitale at American Retirement Advisors. Call 855-756-5700 or visit them online at aradvisorsinc.com. All matters discussed during this show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services are offered by American Retirement Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Michigan. Insurance products and services are offered through American Retirement Solutions, Inc. American Retirement Advisors, Inc. and American Retirement Solutions are affiliated companies. American Retirement Solutions, American Retirement Advisors, Inc. and Joe Vitale are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.